Yo, what's up, everyone? Hey, get the chat going. Want to hear where you guys are from and such, and we'll get going here in a minute.
And by the way, what is going on, everybody?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
What's up, y'all? All right, we're gonna get it going. Unwracked is a live conversation series from Bridge Athletic, where top coaches break down the training systems, methods, and philosophies that drive performance at the highest level. Each episode takes you inside a specific approach, how it's built, how it's applied, and how it evolves under real-world conditions. Today's guest brings a wealth of experience, both as an athlete and a coach. Luka Hocevar is a name synonymous with success, and he's helped transform over 12,000 clients since 2006, several thousand of which were athletes in the NBA, UFC, NFL, and MLB. Luka and his company, Vigor Ground Performance, have been featured in written works such as Men's Health and Stack Magazine, as well as on our screens with CBS, Fox, and USA Today. Above all else, Luke is a value first individual who pours into the coaching community, and we're super lucky to have him on the show today. Luca, welcome to Unrack, man.
Man, it's my pleasure to be on here. Anytime I can
Excellent.
talk about coaching and program design, I get a little giddy.
Yeah, there are worse
Here's the
conversations,
naturally
right?
giddy about it. So,
Love it. Well, thanks for being here, man. I think starting off today, you obviously have such a unique upbringing and background, and I think it's one that will really resonate with the audience. In particular, kind of thinking about like a fork in the road that I've heard about, where you reached with basketball, life of crime while you were growing up in Slovenia. So hit us with it, man. I really want to know how you kind of reached that point and how it turned into, your coaching career as it is today.
yeah, I mean, I've told this story, so I'm better at keeping this story shorter. so, so we're not going to be doing the whole episode on it. But I mean, look, a big part of my life was basketball. I always say, I was so into basketball during my teenage years, but if anybody's ever seen me, it's like I'm 6 foot, but it's 6 foot, in the Slovenian leagues ain't that tall really. So you guys know Luka Doncic. I played with his dad when I was younger. You're looking at 6'6", 6'8", 6'7" guards and stuff like that. So I worked really, really hard to be good at that. Now at the same time, I was also doing a lot of dumb stuff. From age 13 on, I was involved in a lot of crime and pretty much ball saved me. I mean, I made a decision when I was 18 years old to go to the U.S. and play college basketball. And a big part of that was, again, it's a pretty long story, but I started getting into some really serious trouble. And that move was like an opportunity to essentially still play basketball, get away from the shit show per se, and still do school. And at that point in time, school was like, it was more basketball. So I ended up going to a year before I was in Eastern Invitational Basketball Academy, which is like in Jersey. The coach there was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about going to college?" Next year I came up there, played. Um, I had no idea how the college system works, by the way, like scholarships
Yeah.
and everything. So there's a bunch of D1 schools that were like, "Hey, if you walk on, like you'll get a scholarship," but they were like 40, 50 grand a year. Delaware State, Quinnipiac, Western Michigan.
Yeah.
So I went to junior college in upstate New York and hooped there. Got a full ride down in Southern Virginia. And from there, I went to play overseas for a while. And so Ukraine, Slovenia. In my last year playing pro, I mean, I'm speeding this up as much as you can speed it up. But
Sure.
last year playing pro, uh, I started coaching and we started a gym. So that's a very, very short thing. But I've always been obsessed with training. So when I was 13 years old, my mom opened up a gym.
Hmm.
Basically, half the day she worked at the bank, half the day she worked at the gym. And I had some incredible mentors. I didn't even know how lucky I was at that point in time. It was
Yeah.
number one power lifter at 90 kilos in Slovenia, teaching me how to deadlift and squat and bench.
Yeah.
And basically world champion, Olympic medalist, gymnast, straddlers, Aljaž Pegan, so that I think, influenced me a lot. But the thing was I was a scrawny kid. I got stronger, I
Hmm.
could jump higher, and I got hooked, and from 13 on, I was into sports performance, like kind of obsessed. The thing is, if you ask me between the age of 13 to 23, 24, what I want to do is like I'm playing NBA. But if anybody's read the book So Good They Can't Ignore You from Cal Newport,
Yep.
you kind of realize that like I was building a lot of career capital, right? By the time I
Hmm.
started, officially coaching, I had, 12 11, 12 years of training experience. I trained under Srđan Đorđević, hard name to say, but he number one track and field guy, and honestly in that part of Europe. He trained Marilyn Adi last 6 years of her career, Brigitte Bukove. So these are Olympians. I would train with Brigitte in the mornings, you know, and like that was my experience. So I just was entrenched in the performance space, which later on when I moved into actually opening my first gym in Slovenia with my brother and a friend, I had so much training experience, and we were kind of the first gym that was doing coaching and membership coaching. And it kind of went from there, and we started a gym 19 plus years ago in Slovenia. I moved to the US because I got married very young, started from scratch, did the big box gyms, LA Fitness, Vision Quest, opened up my garage gym in Seattle, Renton in Seattle. It's going to be 17 years ago in October. So it's been like the last 21. I've been coaching for 21 years, gym owner 19 plus years. And I mean, I'm obsessed psychotically around anything fitness, performance, and the business of fitness as well. So that's the real quick one, because I want to make sure that everybody here gets as much value and can ask questions and everything else in between as well. But I do think it matters. Like, look, I just put up a post, me and my partner in the consulting business, Andy McCloy, who's had gym for 23 years in Alabama. They're BCI, like they're top notch there. And we talk about this, like how I feel like the industry's has gone away from, we call it coaching first, right? So like imagine if you go into a restaurant, right? And the food is shit, you come back. No, like because you're like, well, the restaurant, the main thing that they offer is quality food, right? Quality ingredients, quality food, and service, right? Well, what in coaching? I mean, whether you're a solopreneur or you're a business owner, right? Like you're a gym owner, the foundation of your whole business is basically coaching. It's the results that you get from training and the experience that a person gets from it. And now you see stuff, around, and it's like marketing. Like, by the way, I think all these are important. Marketing, sales, system, very important. Operations, very important. But if you don't focus, like imagine a restaurant that has a great IG, looks awesome, they know their Google biz profile, they got it down, they run ads, then you come in and the food is whack, right? It's like you're speeding up how fast that place is going to close down. So I'm kind of obsessed with the product, and our product is one, ourselves, again, our personality and how we coach people, how we treat people. And then it's like, well, shit, like you got to get results. You got that's how, I mean, I became known in our area because I was getting absurd results with youth athletes, with, people that wanted to drop body fat, that wanted to transform. And the one thing I'll say is, for anybody here that's listening, I think, especially if you're kind of younger in your career and you're saying things like, I want to go really niche, you got to become a great generalist before you become a great specialist. And that was actually almost like I was lucky in a sense, because I was very much so, I'm going to train athletes. I'm an athlete. I know my shit, and all the, like I did train athletes, but that was very difficult to kind of put food on the table consistently. My, semi-private personal training and the boot camps and stuff exploded. And the thing is, I started enjoying just training people that wanted to get results. And I became known for that. And I was training all types of people. So very general, right? Like I'd have the athlete, then I'd have the guy with replaced hip, then I'd have the mom that wants to lose 80 pounds. Then I'd have the guy that's constantly in pain in his low back. I mean, you name it, right? Like I got it. And at first it's like, oh man, it's not my niche, right? But really I learned more through doing that than I ever could have just being like, the athlete guy, right? And then later on in my career is when I started actually, getting big names, and, I'm guys that are making tens of millions of dollars. But I believe that happened because I was so good at coaching and I had so much experience of training at that point in time, thousands of people. And you said, because some folks will go like, we've trained 12,000 people. Between our Vigor location in Slovenia and the Seattle one, we have trained close to 13,000 now. Like personally, I've trained thousands because I've done a lot of groups. I mean, I'll train teams of 45, 75. We've got charity boot camps with 150. So, I train groups, semi-private individuals, small groups, the whole shebang. So just to give a little bit of insight, because I know the industry is full of that. Like I train thousands of people, and then like somebody that's 23 says that, I'm like, for reference, I'm 44. I've coached for like 21 years. So it's just, I think these things are important, right? I think they're important. I
Yeah.
think it's important that we, tell the truth, show the truth, what's required, to be great at the job and to be great at the craft.
Oh, I love that, man. Yeah, and I think that's there's a lot to unpack, with kind of everything you said, and one thing in particular that I think was, unique to me is, you're talking about building this general skills as a coach, right? That's something very, very similar that I think we see with like actual training nuts and bolts and, developing an athlete. You know, Tell me a little bit. I guess one thing I want to know is the sessions you were doing when you were younger with like the Olympians and all that. Like, how did that, I guess expose you to the world of performance in different ways? Because I think a lot of that probably ties into just knowing what I know about you and how you like to coach. I'm just curious how those sessions worked and how and what that taught you at a young age there.
Yeah, and just to give some context too, like I was obsessed with like dunking and being fast. And, again, at that point in time, when you're 6 foot or shorter, at that point in time, I was probably a shorter, kid. It's like I have a disadvantage. And then so I got so into performance. And I did all the dumb stuff. Like many of you on this call probably will not remember things like air alert. I'm going to pause for a second because it was like a plyo program. It was dumb, right? But like sometimes you go through stuff that are dumb to learn, what doesn't work and what works. I read Charlie Francis's Speed Trap when I was 16 years old. And it kind of full circle moment, right? Because Derek Hansen, who's Charlie Francis's right hand person that now kind of carries that torch, is a good friend of mine that lives up in Vancouver and one of the top
Yeah.
speed coaches in the world. So, but that's what it was. It was like, so let me bring up a characteristic, a value that if you have, one of my values and characteristics is curiosity, right?
Hmm.
And I would just absolutely dig into this shit, right? Who were the top people? And back then it was like all books, right? So you're trained, Zatsiorsky, Hershansky, Mel Siv, Tudor Bompa. I was going through all that stuff. Now, in a book, it's very different, than when you actually go and train with somebody. And I got some, by the way, I also have some kind of examples that I want to bring up. Actually, let me bring this up example right now. So if you were
Yeah.
reading Charlie Francis stuff on tempo days, right? Because Charlie was a big
Hmm.
high-low guy, meaning, your high days are high above 90%, your low days are 70% or lower. And,
Hmm.
he would have an example of 2,000 meters of tempo runs on your like low days.
Yep.
Now, and you read that in a book and you're like, okay, I'm going to do that. Now, has anybody here tried to do 2,000 meters of tempo runs? Listen, go and do it at 70%. You're toasting your athletes, right? And then you start going like, well, was Charlie Francis wrong? I don't know, but a lot of those guys were juiced. So, like, you know what I mean? So you start running them and we'd start, I'm starting my guys at maybe 300, getting them up to 800 preseason, and they'll be ready like crazy.
Yeah.
So my point being, the reason why I'm saying this is because you read the books and you go through the book and then you do the thing and you're like, whoa, what the fuck's going on? Right? It's like the Bulgarian program. Like, well, yeah, listen, they were juiced up and like a lot of people would get destroyed. And the ones who made it went to the Olympics, right? So now to say this, I got into train with my basketball coach, knew Srđan Đorđević, right? Who was, again, one of the top track and field coaches, trained Olympians, was elite. So when I got there and I started seeing the training in action, I started really being able to absorb this because I was like, how do I get faster? I got to get stronger. So for example, it blew me away to like how long the breaks were when we were doing top speed work. And it's like, you're doing a 40 and then you're resting for 8 minutes, 10 minutes, staying
Yeah.
kind of loose and supple. And like, then I'd ask, because he was one of the first guys too doing like, I mean, literally in Eastern Europe, like EKG training, muscular testing.
Hmm.
And I learned so much about that, the quality of work, like pure, again, doing things at max efforts and having full recovery, where a lot of the stuff you'd see would be like constant, we're training speed, but it'll really be like conditioning, circuits, agility, this, that, like low breaks. So me getting into that world and also seeing, top track athletes, the way they lifted, right? It was like explosive, violent, long breaks, quality, versus you go to the gym. And by the way, we all grew up on Flex magazine and thought bodybuilding was lifting, which by
Yeah.
the way has tons of application. I think it's smart. It's just you got to know how to put it together. Now I went to this world and it was like the session was like a longer session, but way fewer lifts, higher quality, higher intent. I experienced that at elite levels, right?
Yeah.
So it gave me such a perspective then when I'm going back to the gym and I'm doing my programming and I'm having to rethink a lot of stuff, right? And get again, characteristic curiosity. I dive deeper. So I'll
Mhm.
just be studying a lot of people and seeing, what they do, how they do it, but also like diving deeper and like, okay, these people are doing it like that, but I tried it. I'm dead. What was going on? And it's like, oh, this is all they did all day. Also, there was substances involved. Also, you have to be contextual because and I'm not gonna name the certification, but teaching French contrast training, which I think is awesome, right? But
Mhm.
literally in a cert showing like a 4 exercise French contrast set with, Gen Pop. And by the way, I love contrast in Gen Pop, and we can talk about when and why. But I'm like, man, first of all, this is taking 20 minutes of the session. Second of all, this person is going to be so fucking sore, they're never coming back to training, right? And French contrast training, great. When to be applied, contextual, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, learning all of that, like the faster you can put into reps in the actual environment, the faster you learn. And I've made some dumb, I made plenty of dumb mistakes fast to learn and go like, oh, never doing that again. Oh, that's stupid. It was fine in this context, but it's not okay in that context, right? And I think we've kind of started losing this. When I look at the industry
Mhm.
as average, I
Mhm.
mentor hundreds and hundreds of coaches, and we have a business. I have super coach mentorship workshops, all of this stuff. And what I see is, there's learning through digital, right? Through all these sources, and it's hard to gain context. It's hard to know who's just edutaining, right? Like, oh, I'm going to put this shit up, and it's going to
I
be
like that.
entertaining. But I don't really train any people, so I don't really know. I can do this at home, or I can do this solo n equals one, but I'm not really doing it with a lot of people. And I think get around folks that do this like in person, right? Back when I started, that's all you could do was get the best shit.
Mm.
You go to seminars, conferences. I do internships with Altus, I mean, you name it. I went to Parisi back in the day. I went with, Pavel Tsatsouline was one of my mentoring kettlebells. I mean, I
Yeah.
was there entrenched, seeing the greats do the work. And then I would do it. And then you get fast feedback loops, right? So I think that needs to come back. Like, if you want to be a phenomenal coach, like, I love courses, I love video stuff. It's not the same as hands-on. Nothing is the same as hands-on. Nothing. It's the fastest way to learn and kind of, if you want a shortcut, that's what you do.
Yeah. Well, it seems like there's kind of two paths to think about there, right? How do you foster that curiosity so you know where what to start applying? But then, there's kind of the avenue of obtaining enough athletes to really see what works and what doesn't, in these different situations. So, how do you kind of, I guess, balance that approach in that respect? And like, how do you suggest, especially like a beginner coach, break up their time in that regard?
I mean, look, so here's my thing. I even see some questions here we can get to later on that are good questions, but
Hmm.
it's like in the beginning of your career, I mean, whether it's, I think, interning, pre-work, when you work, think about like the greatest cheat code ever is like, who's the best facility owner, coach, strength and conditioning program? Again, it depends which avenue you want to go. You want to go private sector, you want to go, work for a team or whatever it may be, right? But man, like, why wouldn't you go to a place that one does coaching at the highest level? So they're known to get results. Like they have a history, a track record, proof of concept, and they're also good at business.
Hmm.
Because now when you work with that person, for that person, you are learning in real time, right? Learning over
Totally.
earning all day long. I see that decision made. If somebody's going to go work somewhere for an extra $5 an hour, $3 an hour, $7 an hour,
Yep.
but like if I give you 10
Teaching you
bucks an
shit.
hour more, but no mentorship, or I give you $10 an hour less, but tons of mentorship, the $10 an hour less position is 100 times more valuable over time. 100
Hmm.
times, right? And so
Yep.
to me, it's like that. Now, I'll give you an example. Somebody's like, well, I live in a small town. We really don't have like these great performance facilities. I said, is there a personal trainer in your area that's like, they make the most money? They've been around for a long time. They have booked, like they're booked, right? Almost always there's somebody like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, great, buy sessions from them.
Hmm.
Train with them once a week, twice a month, whatever you can, right? Because guess what? You're going to get trained by them. You're going to learn from that. And I guarantee you, when you're training with them, you can go like, hey, so how did you do this? How do you follow up with people? How do you build your book of business? How, you're learning from a person that's actually doing it. Not that's making a reel about how they're doing it, but you don't know if they're doing it. They are actually doing it, right?
Yeah.
And you'll learn more from that, and that'll be the best money you spent, And again, like there's so much of that around. Like I own 4 companies and do well online and have the gym, own the building, yada yada. If today, I wanted to learn more about commercial real estate, which again, it's not my passion, but I do it because I think it makes sense. And the best commercial real estate in Seattle is like, Luka, work for me 20 hours a week for free. And I'll teach you everything I know. Right. I think that's an incredible deal. Right. Where today
Yeah.
people are like, oh my God, work for free. Like, dude, they're giving you millions of dollars worth of education for only 20 hours of work a week. Take it. Right. It's a different frame of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would you pay to spend time with Warren Buffett about investing? Like you can meet with him for 10
Yeah.
hours a week. What's that worth to you? Like, by the way, people pay enormous amounts, but all you have to do is work 10 hours, 12 hours for free. Would you do it? Like you need to take that approach when you're, especially again, when you're younger and you're starting off your first years of being, because that learning over earning, I'm telling you right now, that is building your stock up. Yeah, that's the S&P and me.
Mm-hmm.
It's something nobody can take from you. And you're basically when you take sometimes a higher pay, right? Just so you get the higher pay, but you don't look at the whole picture. It's like stepping over $100 bills to pick up 10 cents. even though the per hour is higher, I see this mistake done all the time. I want to learn and build my skills, right? I did for the whole of 2024, I did a presentation called the 6 buckets of successful fitness career. And
Mm-hmm.
essentially it's, now the thing is you fill those buckets in order and it goes like this. First bucket is knowledge. Second bucket is skills. Third bucket is people, not just who you know, but who knows you, right? Because the more skills you have, the more people want to know you, right? You fill the skills bucket, that people bucket gets fuller.
Mm-hmm.
Bucket number 4 is resources. So that's like assets, what you own, but it's also things like, hey, if you had a popular podcast with a lot of episodes, that's an asset. What about your website? What about ebook that you wrote, physical book that you wrote, like anything like that? That's your resources and assets. I would even say, even status to a degree, but the 5th bucket is reputation, right? You do those things, you get a reputation. You don't do those things, you get a shit reputation. And if you do all those things really well, number 6 bucket is options. Like you get a lot of options, right? And what people try to do is jump to the resources status bucket real quick. The thing is, it all crumbles if your knowledge and skills bucket are not full. And those are ones that you got to keep filling up. But my point being is, in life, and I've been through a lot of shit in life, and people can, you can lose, economy goes to shit, you lose your resources, your assets, people leave you, people talk shit about you, your reputation gets damaged, right? All of the buckets can be taken away, but the 2 that can't are your knowledge and skills, right? So again, I think this is a very, very, very important factor, because if you think of terms of like, how much have I developed my skills, and what I'm saying that coaches should do, that is the supercharged way of developing your skills, right? Just imagine being around somebody that you aspire to be like, and you see them operate every day, and they're giving you feedback, and they're challenging you, and they're being honest with you, and right, like, and they're showing you the ropes, they're showing you, the behind the curtain, I would say the Wizard of Oz, right? Like what's really
Yeah.
happening. I think that is absolutely invaluable. And what I see now is like, oh man, like, I follow this person, I'm learning from them. You need to go deeper, right? I also
Amen.
believe that there's this idea now. And by the way, look, the right social media, I'm a fan of it, right? But the truth is, how do you know if somebody knows their shit? I believe that one of the things, obviously, watching them in person, number 1. Number 2, long form content. Can you talk about your topic and be grilled for hour, 2 hour? Do you have a podcast? Do you have long form YouTube videos? Can you do like live in-person seminars? When you can do that, man, your expert status will go up, which is also why I'm a big fan of, like, if you're a coach, doing in-person local seminars, lunch and learns, workshops, It's a thing that most don't do because public speaking is one of the top fears of human beings. But if you do it, you'll break through the noise and crush it. Like I guarantee you in your local area, no one or very few people are doing public speaking, which means that if you do it, guess what? All of a sudden you got an advantage, right?
Yeah, you're winning. Yeah. No, I love that, man. Thanks for imparting, kind of a lot of that, I guess scaffolding for the additional layers, that we're going to kind of lay on today. I think, when you nail that concept, especially of, obtaining that knowledge, being able to apply it with athletes and such, then we can really start to have those, deeper conversations about the specific things we want to do. And, I started following you, gosh, probably back before COVID, I know it was. And, one of the things that really brought me to your YouTube page, and one thing I'm super grateful that you took the time to do was, make these like video essays, kind of unpacking these, like the Bampas, like the Charlie Francis, like the Louis Simmons, and, kind of unraveling those things and explaining it, not necessarily in the context of a 900-page textbook, but in the context of like, this is how I use it at my gym. These are the golden nuggets that I took away from that. So, I'm curious right now, like, because I think a coach's lineage is a very important thing to understand for their biases, for the context for everything, and how you can really leverage that coach's stuff. So, want to start with like what systems are you relying on the most right now at your gym with the people you're working with? And let's kind of dive
Okay.
into some of the programming, that's related to that.
I'm gonna pull up a slide, but before I do, I'm gonna give some context and some stories and stuff. I'm a big fan of like the R7 system,
Okay.
and which is
Yeah, hit us with it.
Mike Robertson, Bill Hartman. I don't know how, man, I learned that a long time ago. And kind of took it and ran with it, like to a degree that like we started implementing it into our group training as well. We can kind of touch on that. But this analogy of kind of like Bruce Lee, right? Is absorb
Hmm.
what's useful and reject what's useless. I think if I have a superpower, I think that would be one of them. Is like I'm
Hell yeah.
very good at learning, and then I very quickly apply to see in the real world, and like not apply a little bit, but apply a lot, right? Because when you got a gym and you're training tons of different people, groups, athletes, this, that, the other, you can very quickly stress test what you've learned, right?
Hmm.
So I'd put stuff into play and be like, ooh, that shit ain't gonna work, or like,
Hmm.
ooh, I like this, right? Let me do it some more, let me do it some more. And you're learning through the application of it. And so when you take like a really good friend, and we kind of grew up together in the industry, is Eric Cressy, and Eric took,
Yeah.
and I took, I went through all the West Side stuff. Again, I've been very fortunate. And by the way, let me make a point to go back to like this whole like in person and seminars. I mean, I went to hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating. So since 2005, I've been at hundreds, probably like close to 300 seminars in person.
Hmm.
About 100 of them I've spoke at now, but like at the beginning, I'd be going to everything you can imagine, right? And then you meet people, so talk about West Side. AJ Roberts, a very close friend of mine,
Yeah.
one of the first people that nearly totaled 3,000. He was at West Side, and Louis. I mean, kind of Louis was his kind of dad in a way as far as like
Yeah.
teaching this stuff. But AJ's a good friend, so I got insights on West Side, not just from every book that I read about it and videos I saw and the DVDs I ordered back in the day, but like from people actually doing this shit, right?
Hmm.
But then contextually you go, oh, what can I use of this in my actual gym? And Eric was one of the guys that did a great job of the conjugate system and applying it to athletes. And obviously he was
Hmm.
much more hardcore going into the baseball space, but like we'd always riff on this, and I'd see it like how he's doing it, and then I'd do it my way. And I think that's so important. That's why I'm coming back to this whole like, build relationships, go to live events. But as I was applying these things, through my gym, some things will fall off. Again, you start, and let me give you an example. When you go to start doing small group personal training, right? Like, and you
Yep.
have 12, 14, 16 people in a group, but you are doing strength training and you have a system, you very quickly lose, pulling straight barbells off the floor. And
Yeah.
then some people are like, this time, I'm like, yo, like when you do it enough, you'll see that it's a no-go, right? Trap bar deadlifts, awesome, great, everybody can do it. Like, I mean, it's very few people that can't do a trap bar.
Really
We
hard to fuck up.
reduce it, and it's like the system changes. But hey, also, if you're training people, West Side Barbell, like their true max effort day was building up to a 1. We're not going to build up to a 1 in 98% to 99% of the scenarios, right? We're going to stay
Yep.
in that like 3 to 6 rep range for, especially for our groups, even for our semi-privates. So, but the thing is, so sub max effort method, love it. And you kind of manipulate that into a way that works, but still is true to the principles. So I say that to say, when you look at this, the reason I look at, I love the hold on, let me just pull up my slides real quick.
Go for it, man.
The
No rush.
R7 model is because it's very malleable, right?
Mhm.
All right, let's go here. Here we go. Because this part I do want to go through quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Here we go. So, and this is like presentation style. I'm gonna keep it open if you guys like are losing your mind seeing all my tabs. This is how my brain works. I'm studying 10 courses, doing a
That's
million.
as bad as I've seen it, man.
Yeah, dude, you will not beat this. This is Luka's brain.
Oh,
But
man.
this way I don't have to pop in and out all the time. Now check this out. So on the left side is R7, and I can kind of explain it, but on the right side is how I'd explain it to a client, right?
Okay.
Because I like if I'm telling them release, reset, it's like, oh, what the fuck, right? Release is soft tissue work. Okay.
Yep.
It can be lacrosse ball. I don't care if it's a, I got athletes that come in with, Theraguns. Cool, do your thing. Whatever you feel is gonna get you that release. Now we can argue about you're not rolling out trigger points, but there's some neurological things that happen that we know that make people feel better and move better, right?
Yeah.
Reset is, look, you got that. Like, if anybody here has done PRI or DNS or things like that, but really, what is the principle of reset? There's two things that you want to reset: positions of joints, and especially to the nervous system, right? So most of our clients that come in, they're stressed the hell out. They're sympathetic, fight or flight. So part of the reset, I really love like positional breathing. So think couch stretch, right? And then instead of counting for seconds, I'm going to have them do a full exhale, right? Ribs are going to come down, pause for a little bit, inhale through the nose into the space where they're stretching, and exhale again. So we're kind of getting a double whammy, right? We're going to bring that nervous system down to a little bit more leveled out, and we're probably going to put their joint in a better position. If anybody wants to kind of like dive deeper, if you go on my YouTube and you go into, I think it's going to be joint resets, 21 or 22 joint resets, Luka Hocevar, just type it in, it'll pop up a video. It's like I explain what it's for, which joint we're trying to reset. But that's what resets are. We'll literally do maybe 1 or 2 resets. So we're not spending all this time here. This is not like crazy rehab blowing balloons all day long. Like, and again, you learn that real quick when you're like, hey, I got an hour with most clients, right? Readiness is pretty much like this is your dynamic warm-ups. What everybody understands as dynamic warm-ups, right? So those 3, we just call it ramp: range of motion, activation, movement prep. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and again, we can kind of go through what that looks like. This for most semi-privates will take about 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. I'll tell you when it takes longer. Reactive is our speed, power, and athleticism, right? Again, easy to explain to clients, but I think every program should have that. And if you're like, well, with Susie Sue 71, she doesn't give a shit, I still think she should have it. We can talk about what that looks like. Resistance training is I categorize into 2 things: strength training plus resistance training. Like, strength training is, what's the goal of strength training? Is get stronger, right?
Yep.
The goal of resistance training can be a bunch of different things, right? It can be improving tendon strength, right? Or durability. It can be muscular endurance. It can be pure hypertrophy, muscle building, right? It can be a lot of different things. So, I always say, like, what is strong? I've trained UFC guys, UFC champions. And while they need to be strong and powerful, we might be doing, when somebody's choking them out, like hand across, if you can see me, like FRC pails and rails, where I'm going to have them push the shit out of me here and then pull away, right?
Yep.
So really hard joint angles to train with specific exercises. Rope climbs, right, where you have to crush the grip. And you got guys that can do one-arm dumbbell rows with crazy weight, and then you're like, all right, I want you to climb this rope, and they just fall apart.
You can't fucking do it.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what are we doing it for, right? And what is strong? It can look different. Resilience is conditioning. That's the easiest way to explain it. And recovery is cool down. And we don't, we teach people this. The easiest thing to do for recovery cool downs, we have a little protocol, is like, get on a bike, pedal, but 100 beats a minute or less, so super slow. Then box breathing, 2 to 3 minutes, put your feet up, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. And it's out of the mouth, in through the nose. Again, just getting them like, so they're not leaving the gym in a fight or flight state. They're coming back down so they can start their recovery. And, this is really malleable, even to a degree, like when I show you this next slide, right? Like, so a ramp session, like the normal one. So most people in our clients right here, about 10 minutes, okay? If everything's cool, right? But if somebody's a beginner, like we literally just had like a client signed up yesterday, right? They're not they're training with one of my coaches. So I'm talking to them about it. They're asking me some questions. They're like, yeah, they haven't literally been in the gym for like 15 years. I mean, so tell me now, if somebody hasn't been in the gym in 15 years, is very inactive, they're overweight, you got some health issues. If they do a squat to stand warm-up drill, they do a glute bridge, they do a band pull apart, they do a wall slide, like these are exercises. Like they're going to be tired from the warm-up, right?
Yep.
So maybe their ramp is half the damn session.
Yep.
Right. And then we have their reactive might just be like, hey, I want you to throw this med ball against the wall as hard as you can. Right. Obviously with good form. That's power. We're going to do 3 sets of 5. Cool. Awesome. Then we're going to do 2 sets of a goblet squat for 6 reps. That might be tough. That's their strength. Right. They might superset that with a TRX row. So you're going to have some strength. Cardio at the end might be like 30 seconds at a 60% intensity on, 60% like just recovering. Right. So it's important. Like I love the piece of the pie analogy because I got an NFL guy that deadlifts, trap bar deadlifts 750. Do we need to work on strength? Not really. Do we need to maintain it? Yes. Right. Yeah. But he comes to me, he's like, Luka, I got it. Like my first foot, I'm an O lineman. I need to be more explosive and more reactive. Okay. So that R4, we're going to work on that more. Again, piece of the pie of the session is going to look different. We're going to still maintain strength, right? Maybe 1 day a week. Man, we do 2 sets of 3. That'll be fine, right? You can very easily maintain strength, but we're going to spend a lot more time on something else. So, by the way, if you go back to this, anything like the conjugate system, concurrent training, linear, like you can filter it through this. Totally. No problem, right? No problem. Okay. Power lifter, right? What are they going to be doing? I mean, shit, a lot of their time might be here, but if they're tight as fuck, I'm going to do this. And, great story about AJ Roberts when, he started doing single leg training. And that took his, he squatted in a suit, but nonetheless, over 1,200 pounds. And you're like, well, shit, like, how are lunges going to help him? They did. Because they created stability. And remember, when you don't have stability, force production is going to go down. So he bumped his numbers up, doing this and changing this up too. So you look at the needs thing, right? Like, again, I always think about it this way, especially when it comes to sports, right? Think about filling buckets more and not letting other buckets overflow. So, if you look at the current generation of I would say like basketball, I deal with that with the kids, right? Like too much plyos, if you think about it. Shitty plyos, right? Because they're playing all the time. I mean, I got kids that are like, dude, I got 7 games this weekend and we have practice every day. What? So dumb. So they need more mobility, flexibility, movement, skill, and strength. I'm going to fill up these buckets. I'm going to tune these buckets down so they don't get overused stuff, right? Now I could do the same thing. So think about this. I could do the same thing for anybody, like I just mentioned. Had a lot of alignment, they're like stiff as hell. No internal rotation of the hip. Everything's starting to get banged up. Hey, we're going to fill that bucket more. We're going to work on rate of force development. We're going to work on speed. We're going to maintain strength. You're jacked as can be. But you know what we are going to do? We're going to work on nutrition as well and get you a little bit leaner, right? And so think of it this way when it comes to that R7 model, but like at the baseline is like movement quality is king, right? Ideally, you find a pattern you can mitigate alone. So find ways to challenge them. I'm a fan, there's a reason back in the day, I'd be the guy that's like, oh, fuck machines, which is, again, you're younger and you don't know what you're talking about.
That's right.
You're smart. But man, I got a belt squat. I got a pendulum squat. I got a hack squat. I got a Smith machine. I got I got all this shit now because my, 9th year in the NFL guy, bar in the back, that dude's squat is a quarter squat. I put him on a pendulum. He's like, dude, this is the best squat I've ever done. I can produce force. He can go up to good depth, right? Like, what is the thing you're going to give the person so the quality of the movement looks really good, right? Range of motion, control, all those things. And again, nuances, right? Like, when am I picking what? But what do they have access to? Because there's nothing worse. Like, if I get a client, and again, fill in the blank who they are, right? It's Susie. She's 57, sedentary. And like I try, like she's not good at something, and I try to teach her that thing the whole session. Waste this session, they feel like, oh, embarrassed because they're not good at it. Versus I pick a movement they have access to, and I quickly start getting adaptation, right? And also thinking about what adaptations am I trying to create.
Mm-hmm.
If my thing is output, I've seen this, like, by the way, and I consult, pro sports teams as well, when it's like they're putting, like a guy's got issues with the hip, with this, that, the other, putting a bar on their back, and it's like, but they're trying to say, like, I want to make him stronger. Well, they got a whole bunch of threat in the system, so they can't create force output. Like, give them a different exercise, and the adaptation you're trying to get, you're going to be able to get it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is important because I see people trying to like fit a round peg through a square hole. And then, and by the way, this is more of a system at the gym type of thing. This is a
Yeah.
training template, right? Because actually, let me go back because I want you guys to see this. This is kind of like the 6 steps of designing a program. Determining a template. The template is determined by the client's goal, preferred training schedule, training history, like have they trained a bunch, have they not trained a bunch, outside of gym lifestyle. Mother of 3, works a 10-hour day. Man, like, what are we gonna do? That might be a twice a week, Monday, Thursday. Oh, but they can't train Monday, Thursday. What if they can only train Monday, Tuesday? These are all real scenarios I've dealt with, by the way, right? Like, this is all going to determine templates. Then you design the methods, right? Like, is it high CNS on the right day? Where does which day fall? Strength, conditioning, is it combined? Right? That's when you plug these in. Then you go to exercise selection. Exercises that fit the methods, the client, and this one's important, guys. The preferences. Yo, I used to
How
be
do
the
you
guy.
how do you think about that? Like that, because I think that's an important thing to like dive deep on. So
Listen, what is the number one determinant if the people to train with you would get results?
if they like it enough to keep coming
To
consistently.
keep coming, keep coming. The
Yep.
consistency to keep coming. Okay. And I promise you, probably first 5 years of my career, no, this is the best way. Right. And some people will
Me
get
too,
incredible
man.
results, and some people will disappear. And this is because you become too egotistical and righteous, right? And you go like, no, 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 I know. And but you do. But the thing is like, if a person's like, yo, I fucking hate Bulgarian split squats, I go to autonomy. Well, would you rather do Bulgarian split squats, a front foot elevated static lunge, or a dumbbell reverse lunge, or a slider lunge? Now they feel like they have choice.
Yep.
I like reverse lunges. Great. Now, is their life going to change because they didn't do Bulgarians? Like, is it going to completely? No, of course, fucking not. Right? Like,
No.
they train hard in that pattern, they're going to be perfectly fine. And
Yeah.
even like, when people talk about random workout stuff, I've changed my tune on this, and we'll kind of dive into this. People that are, if anybody's done Christian Thibodeau's neurotyping, great certification, just talks about kind of psychological types. You have risk avoiders, you have novelty seekers. Like, a novelty seeker is a person that's like, it's going to be very difficult for them to stay on the same program for 6 weeks with every same exercise, right? And what I mean by that is like, you're going to lose them, right?
Yeah.
So I do like this 60-40-70-30 rule, where a bunch of their program would be the same. And let's say they're like, I really want to work on my arms, my butt. Like, the last 40% of the workout will be something new. It'll always be working on arms and butt, but they're going to be happy. And the other 60%, it's kind of like putting the medicine into, the cookie, or like,
Hmm.
the kids, it's like you put the veggies in a smoothie, so they eat
Yep.
it. But the thing is, they keep coming back, and because they keep coming back, they get results. So, this part is important, really important. The preference part is important, more than you think. Then you go to sets, reps, tempo, rest intervals, so on, and then feedback loop, right? How are they feel? Like, you got to have feedback loops. And one of the feedback loops, by the way, is this. And I was just talking about the preference, is compliance. If they're not compliant to your program, be careful about saying, oh man, they're so uncommitted. What about thinking about, I didn't create the right program so that this person stays with the program? Maybe it's too much.
Yep.
Maybe it's doesn't have enough novelty. Maybe there's exercises in there you could change so they enjoy them more, right? And look, I'm all about teaching people about grit and resilience. I think the weight room is an incredible place to do that. But you got to find the Goldilocks kind of, if anybody's heard of the Goldilocks effect, meaning, or the Goldilocks zone. right? The Goldilocks zone is the zone of challenge. It's like if you challenge somebody too much, they'll get frustrated. If you challenge them, if you don't challenge them enough, they get bored. So right about 5 to 7% past what their ability is, that's called the Goldilocks zone, right? Now, the Goldilocks zone for somebody that loves trainings, train a lot, it's going to be completely different than somebody brand new coming in. So, you got to, sometimes when compliance is not right, you got to go back and you got to change shit up, right? And we can talk more about that, right? But also, are they feeling sore? Hey, soreness is fine, but if they can't go to work for a week, that's not okay.
Yeah.
And you got to have some type of assessment that that kind of drives course correction. Now, I went back for this because for us, again, look, this is systems based now. If somebody's training one time a week, semi-private, it's going to be full body. If it's two, and this is what my coaches would get, right? Because when they're building templates out, they go 2 times a week is going to be A, B, workout A, workout B. 3 times a week. If they're a beginner, we're going to do A, B, A, B, A, B. Here's the thing. Why would we do that? Why would we not have 3 different workouts? Because a beginner doesn't have like the skill of movement down. So the more that we have frequency in skill acquisition. So let's say, A, they're doing a kettlebell goblet squat. Well, they're going to do it on Monday and Friday. Do you think they're going to get better at the kettlebell goblet squat? Fuck yeah. Right? Less things to learn, doing them more frequently. Their skill acquisition, their neurological effectiveness is going to go up, and they're going to get better at it. Now, if they get better at it, that drives competence, which means that drives intrinsic motivation. Happy client, right? So new client, if you do an ABC workout, now they have, so let's say that the workout has 6 exercises. I'm just making this shit up, right? 6 exercises. Well, if you do ABC, they have 18 new exercises per week to learn. If they do AB, they have 12. And they're repeating those 12 multiple times per week, right? So they're going to get better at the skill. Like we say, strength is a skill. Movement is a skill. They'll get better at it, right? So beginners, we're always here. Intermediate, and advanced, ABC, full body, 3 different workouts. By the way, I would say 90% of our training lives in here. And then
rare that you get a 4 time a weeker, right? Like even
we have 4 time a weekers. They'll usually be lower, upper, kind of like conjugate split. Lower upper full is another good one. Push, pull legs. Look, I'm not saying we don't do any of this. People that have been with us for a long time, we start going here. 4 times a week, usually lower upper, full weak link, push, pull, legs, arms. I mean, look, there's a bunch of different ways you can go with it. But I'm telling you right now, this is, where we live pretty much. And I would guarantee you that most of you guys live in the same place, right?
Yeah.
And then once you put it into a program, which by the way, I have a 3-day a week full body kind of Luka Athlete for Life conjugate style. I don't know if it's in the Bridge app yet.
It is. Yeah, it is.
But
It'll be live in a few days. Yeah.
We'll be able to access it. This is what this looks like, by the way, in a Word doc, right? And I can, you know what? I'm going to go presenter mode because you guys might see it a little bit better if I go to presenter mode. Let's see. Bada boom, bada bing. All right, cool. So this is soft tissue work, pecs, lats, posterior shoulder, quads. By the way, this is a real program for, believe it or not, an NFL guy. And this was kind of early-ish off season. So we got these are resets. Remember how I said there'll be 1 or 2? This guy was in the league for 8 years at this point in time, pretty banged up. So we're doing more, just so you know. They also have a lot more time and a lot more money. So
yeah.
So there you go. But usually this will be 1 to 2 exercises for the resets. And this is your readiness dynamic warm-up exercises, right? Then you got reactive, lateral low hurdle hops, 3 sets of 10, med ball wall throw. So he has a lower elasticity one and upper one. We contrast this stuff here. So again, this is early off season. You got trap bar deadlift, and he contrasts that with a box jump. Then we got front loaded reverse lunges, right? So basically a front load, like a front squat, basically load reverse lunge, because they're very extended, which most NFL guys are, by the way. They live in extension. So how do I get basically their weight back, right? So they're more pelvis under rib cage. Dumbbell chest supported rows, single leg landmine RDL, weighted push-up, and then Swiss ball stir to pop. Then conditioning, he had an alactic. You can see airdyne bike sprints. We kept him off the feet at this point in time. So 15 seconds of work, 60 seconds of rest, it goes back up, and then basically recovery is just crocodile breathing, right? Just lays down on the belly, pad on the belly, and then breathes into the stomach so the air goes back into his back. 5 seconds in, inhale, right? You can see 10 seconds exhale. He worked up to this, so most people can't do that.
Yeah.
3 to 5 second pause, right? Just a long parasympathetic exhale.
Cool.
So I just want to show you this, guys, because, you know, when you have frameworks, building programs becomes, that's why even, you know, the presentation, I called it like creating world-class programs to get results fast. Not the results part, creating the program fast, right? And once, by the way, you know, when you are solo and you got 5 clients, 10 clients, whatever, you know, and you're creating the programs. And by the way, you know, you should spend more time because it's part of your learning process. But for me, like I got 6 coaches, you know, the gym in Slovenia, we have 14, 15, right? We have 500 plus clients in Slovenia. We got close to 200 here. Like, man, you're creating a lot of programs. You need to have a system, but the system needs to be entrenched in results, proof of concept. And it also needs to have, I would say, you know, malleability. So what's great is, like, for example, your Bridge app for program design, when you can have really quick exchanges, drop down menu, right? Like all our exercises, for example, if you have, let's just take the squat. You have a reaching squat, a TRX squat, right? These are super beginner exercises. Plate squat over the head, right? From there, you have a kettlebell goblet squat. Then you have a double kettlebell squat. Then you have a Zercher squat. Then you have a front squat. Then you have a safety bar squat, right? Like you have a regular bar squat. Then if you have machines, pendulum, this, that, the other. And I like very quickly can go, where's this person at? Because you did an assessment, boop, drop down. Okay, now we got a row, right? We got a horizontal row. Is that a TRX row? Is it a T-bar row? Is it arsenal row? Is it one arm dumbbell row? Is it like, boop, 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 right? And then of course, just like in this part right here that I showed you guys, right? This is where you go exercise selection. Like you already got this down. Now you go exercise selection, sets 10 triple, right? And the thing is, it starts becoming, you can do it really fast. Like I do this in real time for my staff, like where I'll build, you know, 5 programs out in like 10 minutes. And they'll be really good. And I'm teaching them this stuff, right? Because then conditioning methods, if you guys don't know, like one of my best friends in the world, Joel Jameson, who's the best conditioning person on the planet, his certification for conditioning is the best there is. But it's like, you know, the conditioning methods that we plug in, which is our R6 resilience. And again, like I could do a whole thing on this because, you know, we could go in depth on this. But level 1 is like your kind of zone 2 stuff, your cardiac output, tempo intervals, tempo lifting. These are more like aerobic activities. Level 2 are most of them also aerobic, but like high resistance intervals, high intensity continuous training, alactic, explosive repeats, aerobic plyometrics, strongman training. And the level 3 are the hardest, right? Level 3 is when you're going to get your heart rate above 90%, extensive intervals, threshold training, cardiac power. Now, obviously, you got to understand what those are and where they fit. But our clients, like, look, if I see somebody twice a week, I'm not going to do zone 2 with them. And by the way, we try to keep our high days high and our low days low. So if I'm going to do heavy lifting, I'm probably going to do some alactic intervals with them at the end, right? So that's the 12 seconds on, you know, 50 seconds off, or 15 seconds on, 60 seconds off, like echo bike, blast the shit out of it, you know, sled, go hard for 10 seconds, rest and recover, right? So that's going to be our high day, okay? And I kind of want to slide forward too, because when you think about that, actually, I'm going to show you like a chart that's going to kind of show you what I mean by that. It's going to really, really help out. But first, let me show you how like we program and give you some examples, just some examples. Like you can steal this for 12 months, right? So take fat loss. I think undulating for fat loss, like kind of general fitness fat loss, which is a lot of people that we get. Month 1, 3 sets of 8. Month 2, 2 sets of 15. Month 3, 3 sets of 12. 4, 5 of 5. 6, 4 of 6. 6, 3 of 10. And then you repeat. And
can I ask, like, you know, what about that in particular speaks fat loss versus something else to you?
Here's the thing. It's not necessarily that it speaks fat loss, because the truth is that, like, I would just say that nutrition is your biggest part, right?
Yep.
But it's more than undulating stuff for most people work. I like this because it teaches people also to work within different intensities. Like we even got a 5 of 5 here, right? And teaching folks that are like fat loss still, you know, because some people go like, damn, you do 5 of 5 with people for fat loss? Absolutely, because I want to like work on their strength. By the way, all our fat loss people eventually become my, you know, athlete for life training model. Everybody, right? Which I mean, I have videos on YouTube for free that you guys can go watch to see, like, kind of my model for that. But my point being is that, like, people learning how to work in different intensities, I think, is really important. Like beginners, if you tell them like go 2 reps short of failure, they're probably going to be 10 reps short of failure, right? And
Yeah.
changing those rep ranges
Yeah.
allows them, like, what's the best way to teach somebody how to go heavier? If I tell somebody you're going to do 2 sets of 15 or 5 sets, like 5 sets of 5, I can tell you this in real time what happens. The person that was doing 2 sets of 15 for 5 sets of 5, initially they'll take a little bit of a heavier weight than 2 sets of 15. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then 5 is so easy to go like, oh, I can go heavier. You see what I mean? It forces
Yeah.
intensity. Even
Yeah.
if I don't say anything, it's like, oh man, this is really easy.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And
it's not like
so
they need to learn that like the first day, like how to push a
absolutely
five
not.
by five, 5x5 to like the absolute like
A
limit, you know?
beginner. So let's say, by the way, here's another thing too. Would I do 3 sets of 8 for 2 months straight? Yes. Because I'm going to do we'll get to this, like the 3-tier progressive overload. Like
Mm-hmm.
this whole idea that you have to, stay within 3 to 6 weeks for training, that's the best thing for a beginner. Dude, how many times have I had a client that for 10 weeks they're doing the same program? Why? Because every week they're increasing load or getting an extra rep. And if they're not a novelty seeker, they're like, man, I'm always going like, yo, last week you did this week you're doing that. And they're like super happy.
Yeah.
And because of progressive overload, they're getting results. Right. So don't get stuck in this, like, I would say thinking where, oh, it's been 4 weeks, I got to change it. Yeah, but maybe for a beginner, no. You didn't even squeeze the juice out of the orange. Maybe you could have kept doing that for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks longer. And if they don't care, why would you change it? So there's
Yeah.
definitely some psychology in play there, right? But
Absolutely.
I wanted to show, because again, there's a lot that we can unpack here. But if you look at strength, right? Here's a bunch of different modalities. If you looked at 3 months, work up to 3 RM. I call it the over 90% rule. 5 sets at 2 at 90, 3 at 3 at 90, 3-2-1 waves, 5-3-1 the Wendler model. I love these 5-3-1, 6-4-2, 7-5-3, right? With percentages 5-5, 1-3 ratchet loading, 5-4-3-2-1, 1-2-4-6, 1-6 contrast. This is like a Pollock 1-1, 6-4-2 waves, right? And in muscle building, 5-5, 3-12, 4-6, 7-5-3 max, 3-8. I love clusters. 6-4, 6-12, 25. You probably heard of that one. 3-8 contrast, 10-8, 6-15, 6-6 short rest, 5-4-3-2-1 clusters. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, look, we could spend probably like, I don't know, 9
2 hours on
hours on
this.
this fucking slide here.
Yeah.
And I geek
Totally,
out on
man.
it. But my point is, this is a system though,
Yeah.
right? So my coach, if he has a intermediate client and they're like, all right, we worked up to 3, man, let's bump up some volume. Great, let's go to 3-2-1 waves. They know, but you got to know how to do 3-2-1 waves, right? The rest periods and picking the weights and stuff like that. But clients get great results, but they don't need to think about shit so long because they have like stuff to plug in,
Right.
right?
Right.
Even to a degree like this, this is Andy's. We use it too. This is for athletes, right? Exercise A is a power exercise. Sets of 3, sets of 5, sets of 6. Remember, you can have 3-3, 4-3 here, right? Sets of 5, 3-5, 4-5, 5-5, right? Then you have primary strength. So these are months, right? 8, 5, 6, 4, 6, 4, 5, 3, 5, right? Because the thing is, when you have youth performance, meaning high school, college, right? And you build up your coaching, like this is the system.
Mm-hmm.
So I by the way, because I want to encourage everybody here, because I know your first years, you spend a lot of time being inefficient with programming. And I want to
Yeah.
help you guys not do that shit, right? So, because then it's like, well, progression models. You can add a rep. For most Gen Pop clients, it's like, let's take that kettlebell goblet squat example, right? Think about the kettlebell loads. You go from 35 to 45-pound kettlebell. Are you gonna? I mean, shit, I'm gonna add reps for a long time because that's a huge jump. From 35 to 45 is a 33% jump, right? In load.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with that triple progression, right? They're going to go 8 reps, 9 reps, 10 reps, 11 reps, 12 reps. Great. You did 12 reps. Now we're going to go back to 8 and go up a weight, right? So you can add a rep, you can add load intensity, you can add a set, you can reduce rest time. That doesn't happen a ton, but when we do density blocks, it does, right? Add an eccentric. So for example, in that neurotyping certification with Christian Thibodeau, again, you have risk avoiders, right? And risk avoiders, I've had clients that just like, you put more weight on the bar, they freak out. And there's, different reasons. Maybe they got hurt, who knows what. So how would I progress somebody, for example, over the course of 4 to 6 weeks where they do not want more weight on the bar? Okay, so week 1, we're just going to go concentric, right? Normal tempo. Maybe even week 2. Then the next phase, we're going to add a 3-second eccentric. Okay. Then the next phase, we're going to add a 3-second eccentric plus a 2-second pause. Then the next phase, we might add a quasi iso. So they stop 2 times on the way down, right? So they're going to go down, pause for 2 seconds, below parallel, pause for 2 seconds, then come back up, right? So with that same load over a 6 weeks, we've progressed that exercise without adding load. They're going to own it so much that after that, like, hey, how do you feel like adding a little bit of weight? Which they're probably crushing the shit out of a concentric. So, adding pauses, increasing density, increasing speed, especially for, that example of my NFL guys, people that are like, hey, I want to improve, explosiveness, and we're doing rate of force development, speed strength or strength speed, and I have VBT monitors at the same load. I can say, hey, you're moving it at 0.65 meters per second. I want you to be between, 0.8 to 1 meter per second. They have intent. Now they're pushing it, and like, we're at week 3 and like, yo, you're up like 0.2 meters per second, man. We're getting better. So, and just also like this part right here, it's not always going to be linear. The best thing about beginners is that you do see this crazy linear progress most of the time. Once you get to intermediate, like, you're teaching people like that work, that have kids, that don't sleep, that have this, there's going to be weeks that are shit. You're not going to progress. You're not going to add a rep. You might go down, but over time, your numbers are going to go up, right? And again, progression models. Look, I teach this to my team. I think the double progression model for most people is so fucking awesome, right? It's like add a rep, add a rep, add a rep, add a rep. It looks like this. Actually, let me go to the next slide, right? I call it 6, 10, 6, 8, 12, 8, 12, 15, 12. 6 reps, 7 reps, 8 reps, 9 reps, 10 reps. Great. Now we're going to go heavier, but go back to 6. You could do that with a client for fucking years. Like years. I mean, I do this shit. I'm 21 years in, right?
Yeah.
Do not overcomplicate. God damn it, don't overcomplicate it, right? Especially, I mean, for beginners, even intermediates, but like all the supplement work and assistance work, this shit is money, right? For pure strength work, once we get here, yeah, it's going to look a little different with this. But for a lot of the stuff, like you can live here, right? And I think that's important. And then, teaching folks about ramp ups, RPE, RIR, percentages. I'm not the biggest fan of percentages. Here and there, yes. But again, for a gym pop, it's going to look different. Like there's so much stuff I want to talk about. It's Cooper, but it's like, I swear, like this is a week-long presentation. So, but
yeah, no, absolutely, man. And I think like, in that vein of percentages, like what I've found, and maybe you agree or disagree, but like, those percentages in something like a Prilipin's chart, like you said at the beginning, right? It was like, that's based on dudes that were taking gear and like, doing this full time, and every calorie was counted, and they had every massage they needed, and like so on and so forth. So like, these are moving targets for Gen Pop a lot of the times. Maybe they had 20 drinks this weekend. Like Prilipin's chart is out the fucking window.
Here's where I'll give some context about where I get percentages. Okay. First of all, people that are intermediate have been training with us for at least a couple of years, because they know if I go like work up to 1 RIR, like strength, like you feel like you could have 1 more in the tank, like they'll know what that means because I'm teaching them this. That's when I like models like Wendler's 531. Here's why. Because you always calculate their max. Like, let's say I took a max that I know that they had. I'm going to take 5% off that max, maybe even 10. And then remember, Wendler stuff is always like, I mean, I got these percentages in my head. Like week 1, 3 sets of 5, 65%, 75%, 85%. And the last set of 5 is 5+. So you get 5 or more, right? And so it really means that there's only one set that you go balls to the wall, right?
Yeah.
And because you leave a little in the tank on the percentages, they're probably going to get more reps, right? Week 2 is 3 sets of 3, 70%, 80%, 9%. Last set is 3+, right? 3 or more. And then week 3 is a 5-3-1, right? And it's like 75%, 85%, 95%. So that last one is 1+. But because you leave a little in the tank, they might get like 2, 3, 4 reps with that 1+. If they get fuck ton more, you knew that their percentage was off, but they still challenged themselves. right? And my point being is like there's a time and a place where percentages are a good idea, you know, and like it usually is going to be people that know their numbers a little bit more, they're more experienced lifters, but I'm still not going to overdo it. I love heuristics. So let me give you an example. Okay. Back here, this model right here, work up to 3 RM, okay, for the day. So what that essentially is, I think me and Eric Cressy like riffed on this, and it's like you work up to your top set for the day. It's not like a pure 3 rep max. It's like, you know, maybe a one more in the tank, right? Now that can look very different week to week. Like there's weeks, by the way, like this past week, I was trap bar deadlifting. I worked up to a double. My double was 505. I thought I was fucking tired and I'm not going to get anywhere close, but I got a 505 for 2. I was like, man, I'm not very happy with that. 2 weeks before that, like 455 for 2. I was gassed. That's a massive gap, right? So if I worked off of percentages, one day I might be very happy. One day I'd be completely crushed. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm nowhere near the numbers I'm supposed to be doing. Well, if you work up to your top set for the day, and let's say I got 3 sets of 3. So I work up to my best set of 3, anything over 90% counts.
Yeah.
Okay. So check this out. So let's say I worked up to 445 for 3. And the way I got there was I did a bunch of ramp up sets and I did 405 for 3, 425 for 3, 445 for 3. Okay. Well, what's 90% of 445? It's about 405, right? So 405 for 3 counts, 425 for 3 counts, 445 for 3 counts. I'm done. That's my 3 of 3.
So it's all about breaking the threshold
Correct.
in your mind then at that point.
Absolutely.
Okay. I like that.
So
I like that a lot.
it's basically because it's a neural strategy. So like above 90%, like it's kind of like above 90% heart rate, right?
Yeah.
Very intense. Above 90% speed, very intense. But instead of calculating it off your best, you're calculating it off your day, right? So that's a strategy that you can employ with anything. And all the strength stuff like 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, I use over that 90%. It's a great model because it's like people, okay, cool. Like, and let's say I just went from 405 felt great and I just hit 445. Well, that would mean I only have 2 sets of 3, so I'd have to do one more. If 445 felt fucking awesome, I'm gonna hit 455. If it felt like shit, no way, I might go back down to 435 or 425 and hit my 3, and that's my 3 sets of 3. Right. So these are, I mean, look, these are the types of strategies I think that and methods to employ when you train people in the real world, and you can still get the output that you want, but you're not as rigid with certain percentages. Because again, Wendler's 531, it leaves a lot of space, right? It's conservative. So you're not missing a bunch of shit. And I think that's important, right? Especially with Gen Pop, like you don't want to, you don't want to fucking be having people miss a ton of stuff.
They never feel good when that happens mentally. They can like crash failures. Out. Actually, I've
absolutely.
seen it.
And so I think that's an important kind of matter. And with that said, like, look, this part, like, how do we? For most people, we live here. Week 1's an intro week. Week 2, we build volume, right? Most of the time, it's going to be like extra rep, extra set, right? We just build the volume. And then a lot of times it might be connected to like this because now we go from volume to intensity, right? Volume goes down, so you volume bomb it into like that accumulation intensification. I mean, shit, like it. That's what we're gonna do most of the time. Then like when I do athlete stuff, especially off season, I can fuck around more like this. Moderate volume, moderate intensity, then go high volume, medium intensity, a little bit of a deload, moderate volume, like the highest intensity. We peak, boom, we come back into a new one, right? And the thing that I think people have to think about is like when they have clients, is this. So if you look at 3 colors,
can you full screen that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I got you. So think about this, okay? Laying out a training week, and this might seem like pretty baseline, but let's say the colors are red is development. That's the hardest day, meaning the highest intensity, the most volume. If it's conditioning, the highest heart rates, right? So not just lifting. And your green is your stimulus. That's moderate. Your blue is your recovery. That doesn't mean off. It means you're like active recovery. Your zone 2s.
You're going to walk.
Your concentric only with lower loads, whatever it may be. So the main thing that I want to tell people, like, look, if I got a 2 time a week client, like ideally I'd be like, if you can do Monday, Thursday, fucking awesome. You get 72 hours in between. Now,
Mm-hmm.
that's not how the real world works a lot of times, right?
Right.
Um, you know, Gym Pop example is like, hey, can I get you 2 times a week and you get 2 lower intensities? Even better. 3 times a week, Gym Pop. By the way, oops, let's go back here. This, I actually would, if somebody's training with me 3 times a week, this will be too much for most people that we train. I shit you not.
I agree. Yeah,
Monday,
I
Wednesday,
agree.
Friday,
For gym
you're
pop,
cooking.
yeah.
Like
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
just, it's more like this. So Monday high, Wednesday is going to be moderate, and then Friday is going to be another high. Because it's like this, they can recover from. And by the way, what is a moderate? Well, let's look at this. If I have trap bar deadlift on Monday as the main lift, and we're working like heavy threes, four, fives, this might be a bench press. Like, do you recover faster? Like, what's the neural load from a bench press versus a trap bar deadlift squat? Right? Like, you can do this way more often. And the intensities and volume. This might be a repetition effort day, right? So more kind of thing, muscle building, bodybuilding style, or at least bigger piece of the pie of that. All these two are going to have some more neural stuff, right?
Yeah.
Again, more jumps, more sprints, more heavy lifting. And, again, if I got an off-season athlete, yeah, I can do this stuff with. Actually, this takes me to this part. Like, this is literally my NFL guys who just went into camp this past week. They lived right here. Okay. This is Charlie
Yeah.
Flan high-low, right? This is high-low.
Yep. Yep.
Speed, power, strength, and high intensity conditioning, cardiac output, zone 2.
Yep.
High, low, high, low, high, low, right? Now,
Yep.
we look more like this. Most of these guys train with me 4 to 6 days a week, and it'll be like upper body focus, lateral acceleration, right? So remember, acceleration, pretty intense, but change of direction, more intense.
Mm-hmm.
Higher forces, braking forces, intensity on the nervous system, much higher, right? So I'm going to go lower body, which is harder, and then linear change of direction, right? So this is moderate day. This is fucking hard day. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Conditioning, active recovery, mobility, zone 2, all that good stuff. Back to upper body focus. Now we got linear acceleration, lower body focus, lateral change of direction. Again, more stress, and then recovery again. Right. So we got to think about how we organize the week, because what I see, and by the way, if anybody here is in CrossFit, I apologize, but like, not from a stamp, like, by the way, there's a lot of CrossFits that do this right and do it a great way. I'm just trying to set an example. I could, say a lot of different programs, but it's like, oh, one day we do strength, but then the next day we do hardcore conditioning. Like, it's a WOD and you're always going balls to the wall. Well, that, what you're doing? Red, 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 red. Like, that's what you're doing. And then
Yeah.
it's like short term, very good results. Even medium term, hit a wall, injuries, inflammation, going nowhere,
Yeah.
setbacks, right? The
Yep.
thing is, you got to understand this stuff, because it does make a huge difference in like the organization of training. And by the way, a lot of people, right, that come our way, that are people that train, so they're experienced, and they go like, hey man, I hit a wall, they say you're the best. And sometimes I have to like spend months kind of, essentially selling them on training less. And once I sell them on it and they get the best results of their life, they're believers. But at first, I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna do an aerobic capacity here. We're gonna do one less strength training day here. Huh?
Yeah. I'm not working out 50 times a week now.
Correct. But it's like, I'm like, hey, well, how's it working for you? Well, it's not. Exactly. That's why you came and see me. Like,
Yeah.
let's give it a shot for the next 60 days. And if I'm wrong, I'll fucking give you your money back and you can go do something else.
Yeah.
But I'm not, right? Because it's like, it's optimal versus what they can do consistently, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see this all the time, this is what online is now. Like, I put up an exercise and I get a guy that's like a hypertrophy guy and it's like, what a stupid fucking hypertrophy exercise. I'm like,
Oh, Jesus.
this is a power exercise. What are you talking? Like, this is
Yeah. What the fuck?
insanity, right? Like,
It's a power
hey, to
clean.
go back here, by the way, guys, I'm sliding all the way back here. Look, these are the 9 major physiological adaptations.
This is super important. I would absolutely
right?
suggest people write this down if not already.
So, technique, skill, speed, power, hypertrophy, muscular endurance, anaerobic capacity, max aerobic capacity, long duration, steady state, strength. And the thing is that, like, let's look at athletic abilities: skill, speed, power, strength, endurance, flexibility, mobility, agility, coordination. Do you need all? You need all of those. And the thing is that our clients want to be able to do stuff. Stuff can be this, by the way: play hoop, Go run track. By the way, everybody's fucking doing this right now, right? Pickleball,
Yeah.
including myself. Strength training. Go for a hike. High rocks is massive, right?
Mhm.
And we got a ton of clients that come in. I want to do high rocks. So nobody, like, I don't have one client in my life that's come in and gone like, I want to be jacked out of my mind, and I don't care about anything else. I don't care about mobility. I don't care about cardio. I don't care about power. Like, I just, if I can't move and turn my neck, I don't give a shit. I want to. Nobody says that,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? They tell you like, I want to do stuff, and I'm like, tell me what stuff you want to do. I don't want to be in back pain. I want like, so we got to decipher it, right? Like, we got to figure out where they are and what they want to be. Like my life, I'm not even putting all of them. I still like to hoop. I love to hike.
Yep.
I box. I'm a fucking meathead, so I'm clanging and banging, right?
Mhm.
So like we're all hybrid athletes. It's about identifying the different stressors involved in various forms of power, strength, endurance training, and designing programs based around consolidating these stressors to minimize interference and maximize recovery. Now, interference could be a whole nother story we talk about, but like, it used to be a lot more. I would say, did you guys lose me for a second?
I lost video, but I can hear you.
Whoa. I have
I don't
no
know what
idea what
happened.
happened. Hold on. Let's see if we can do something real quick. I'm gonna stop the share real quick and see if
Yeah, go for it,
oh,
man. Ooh,
yeah, that's
blacked
weird.
out.
Yeah, my camera went. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to regular Zoom. This should
Okay.
probably work. Let's see. Took that out. Let's go to that.
Hey, real quick too, anyone in the chat, if you have your questions, we're gonna dive into that at some point soon. So
Yeah,
get your
and I mean
questions
that
in.
was kind of like I'm gonna go back to here.
Sure.
Now you got the lower level Zoom camera. Boo.
I like it. Two points of view right now. That's good.
Uh, but it just to finish kind of like on an interference part of it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
it goes back to like this slide where it's like what is optimal versus what they can do. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like you do
Hmm.
have to be smart about this stuff, right? Like we've had nurses that are like, hey, I can train Monday, Tuesday, and then I work, right? Okay, cool. Well, we're probably going to do a Monday stim day, like a green, and then a Tuesday is going to be like an intense development day, red, and then they're going to have time off, and I'm going to try to get them to do some type of aerobic capacity work, short workouts, whatever it may be, right? But really, it comes down to like I'd rather that they train 2 times a week and get a little bit of cardio here and there, but they do that for a year. It's still going to change their life, right? So I
Yeah.
think that part is really really important. As far as like organizing, but the whole interference part of it, like, look, um, I I had a picture. Actually, you were in Vegas when I was
Yeah.
talking about the hybrid training model,
Hmm.
and I had a picture of me like it was my last year playing pro basketball. I was 206 pounds, low body fat. I mean, tomahawk dunk on people, and I mean, my conditioning engine was nuts.
Yep.
So this whole like interference effect, if people, and I practice basketball every day. So I
Yeah.
lifted, 4 days a week, like basketball's conditioning all the time, right? So
Hmm.
if you were reading books sometimes and having people like believe in an interference effect, you'd be like, man, this dude's gonna completely lose strength and power and or conditioning, right? Those things can't work together. And it's like it's bullshit. There obviously there are, if you want to be the strongest, I mean, we saw Thorne just deadlifted like 1,100 something pounds and broke the world record, right? If he's going to go run a marathon, he's not going to be first. You know what I mean? Like the further you
Yeah.
go into an extreme, the more you're going to have to give up something else, right? That's how it's going to
True.
work.
Yeah.
But if you organize it well and also go through phases where you bring your foundation up and you can get specific, you can do a lot of crazy shit. But I guess for today too is like the key is most clients don't care about being in the top 3% of the strongest, fastest, but
Nope.
hey, they don't want to lose athleticism. They want to be strong. They want to be kind of jacked, but they don't want to be like a bodybuilder, right? And it's like, how do we organize those things together? I would argue that the R7 model that I showed you guys is
Yeah.
like every training session should look like that, but it's insanely malleable, right? That
Hmm.
that pie chart analogy of what you can do with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like what you said about the pro athletes. Like, look, we have to dedicate time to all of these steps, and so maybe they train for an hour and a half, 2 hours, but that's not the reality for Gen Pop folks.
Correct.
90% of the time. I mean, I'm sure some of the some of them would love to, but when you have an hour, it's like, and this is the person's goal. It's like, okay, well then we're gonna spend 75% of our time doing, resistance training and strength training and like 10% on, maybe some of the reactive stuff. Like, and, you can adjust that accordingly. Just kind of sliding scales and dials is really what I'm taking away from a lot of that stuff. And that's such an important concept, to really grasp a beginner, intermediate, and advanced program design. So
Absolutely. And I don't know if we work backwards, but I saw Joe ask a question and was said, DNS, PRI, FRC, how would you rank those certs for training basketball players? I mean, I wouldn't rank them. I would look at it as a tools in a toolbox. Okay.
mhm,
And by the way, like I've done all of those.
mhm,
Some more. Personally, I probably think the FRC has the most application. I like some of the PRI stuff. I think kind of, you know, a lot of folks start going too far down the rabbit hole. So, when you look at those resets, that's where we usually use that stuff. Now,
mhm.
here's what it is useful. Like, let me explain this, right? You really, when I went to things like PRI, I actually went to physical. I went to Myokin. That was the first one I went to, and I
Yeah.
was the only trainer there. I was like physical therapist, nobody else.
Yeah.
Like, man, you got to know your fucking anatomy. You know what I mean, inside and out. So, and biomechanics and movement. I think it's very, very helpful there. But I'm an obsessive psychotic geek. Like I said, all these certs, I legitimately have probably like 120, but I get them for knowledge and I just take the stuff I feel is useful. I think what happens, and I did this too, I would learn a thing and I do too much of it. And then I quickly
Mhm.
learned as like, it's too much. It doesn't really have application in the real world. And I'd go like, yeah, but I like these 2, 3 drills and they really help a lot of people. So I'm going to plug these 2, 3 in. And then the rest of it, I'm going to kind of throw away. By the way, my
Yeah.
YouTube channel is that. When I said like those resets, that's all kind of like PRI, DNS. I got a bunch of FRC stuff, but I share the shit that like we use because it's useful. And so I think that part is important is like build your toolbox and think about what are the things you're missing to become the coach that you want to be. By the way, guys, listen, oof, it's a program design conversation, but let me so if you look at the definition of coaching, it's 3 things. Okay.
Mhm.
It's technical expertise, it is problem solving, and communication. It's those 3 things. So if I break down those buckets, okay, technical expertise is like understanding biomechanics, kinesiology, vector force production, anatomy, all those different things, right? Like that the X's and O's. Important. I think, there's a whole bunch of people that don't understand that and should understand more of that. Problem solving, you can only do with reps. So this is the part where I watch people that are masters and I do the reps because problem solving is like somebody here asked, how do you deal with clients that are in an emergency? So Chan Wu, if you could kind of elaborate on that, but I kind of think I think I know what you mean. But guess what? Group class, I get a person, one of my coaches comes up to me, he's like, Luka, I don't know what to do. So what's going on? Come up, we're doing a Spider-Man rotation, right? Greatest stretch in the world. This person can't do any type of rotation. Like, hey, what's going on? You mind me asking, like, what's restricting you? It's like, oh, man, I have a metal rod from like, my cervical spine all the way to my sacrum. Oh, okay. It's like, all right, let's get you stand up. Let's get you doing this, that, and the other, right? Like on the spot, like how much rotation do you get? What's safe rotation for you? They said like 2 to 3 degrees in the thoracic spine. Great. Okay, let's do this. Let's do some breathing drills. Let's see if we can get things moving a little bit more. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. I'm problem solving on the spot. My coach is like, they were freeze, but they did the right thing. They came and asked. And so I talked to my coach. I said, good. Think about what they can do. Think about how much rotation they can safely get, because even a little bit, if they have 0 degrees of rotation and we get them to 3, they're going to be better off. What else can we do? Right? So that's problem solving. Problem solving
Mhm.
happens in real time and in the real world with a lot of reps. And that bucket of number 3, and by the way, problem solving, if you have a small toolbox, now,
Yeah.
maybe like they say, everything, if the only tool you got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
Yeah. Not a lot of
That's
problems
why,
you can
like,
solve.
correct. The power lifter wants to solve everything with powerlifting, right? Like, to
Mhm.
me, it's like those are all just tools. Like, if you ever heard this rhyme, methods are many, principles are few. Methods change, principles never do. Remember that, right? Like, get a bigger toolbox and it allows you to problem solve more, right?
Mhm.
And then the third one, I truly believe this is the biggest missing link in being a great coach, is communication. I mean, we're talking
Ugh,
about
yeah.
everything from coaching cues, external, internal, but really about how to influence and persuade people, how to be a better active listener, how to ask better questions, right? Really, it's kind of like part of that communication is behavior psychology, which the truth is you can know all your shit inside and out, X's and O's. If you can't help people do those things, you're not really that valuable, right? And
True.
I get to talk to quite a few coaches that are very, very smart and their technical expertise is excellent and their problem solving is pretty good. Their communication is like a 2 out of 10. And it's the thing that's hindering
Yeah.
their career, right? And so it's hard not to talk again. Like I said, program design. You just built the greatest program known to man for this person, but they don't like it. Who's wrong? You know what I mean? Like
You.
you are if
Yeah.
you can't get change the program to where they do it because you win when that person keeps coming in for 3 years. You
Yeah.
know, their back doesn't hurt anymore. They lost weight. Their whole family starts becoming healthy. That you're a better coach. And you know, but another expert coach would be like, dude, that program looks fucking whack. But the thing is, you're a better coach. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because you got them to do it. So this is absolutely critical, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely critical.
I think a lot of, do you agree with this? Like a lot of coaches just train their athletes the way they like to train themselves.
Yes.
And, I think that's a recipe for disaster in a lot of ways, unless you can find 50 clones. And yeah, that's something I think I see a lot,
And
and
that's why,
it's like,
listen, I think that's why you got to get exposure. But I think exposure, look, I'll tell you one of the things that was really, really, really helpful for me is because I was such a training geek, I did all the programs. Everything you
yep.
can imagine, I did it. You know what I mean? Like, because you get to experience, right, the feeling. Nothing worse than somebody going like, all right, we're gonna do German volume training. Dude, have you done German volume training ever?
Oh
Go
yeah,
do it
man.
before you right? Like, we're
Yeah.
gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Like, did you do it? And also try training that you don't maybe agree with and talk to the person that you don't agree with. And you might be very, very surprised and be like, damn, that's kind of smart. I did it and I felt better. And
It goes
right, like
back to those principles, right? Like if it
absolutely
adheres to the principles, it's legit, like
100%.
regardless of if you like it or not.
And we like, man, I gotta this week I'm gonna drop a podcast with my friend Dre, Adriel May. So he's like every goddamn Dre on IG.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Huge,
Okay.
huge, huge
Yep.
following with kettlebells and stuff like that. And man, like, I mean, the title of the podcast will probably be like "Why Random Workouts Work." Now, there's more to it because they're not completely
Yeah,
random,
yeah.
but it's like we make a lot of good points, right? Like in stuff that it's very easy to just be like, "Oh man, this is dumb. This is just, this is just like for the look of IG, whatever." But it's not like, man, I was very fortunate to do a lot with kettlebells, and Pavel was my mentor since 2001.
Good dude.
I did the first RKC in Denmark 2004. Like, and it's like people, I think there's the pendulum swings, right? It's like, oh, kettlebell is the only thing. No, it's a tool, and there was a training system behind it. But I think they're very useful, and you can do certain things with them that allow you to like work weak links, right?
Hmm.
That I
Hmm.
really enjoy. By the way, if I got 30 minutes at home, man, there's probably nothing easier than
Oh yeah.
not easy. Let me take that back. Hard, but simple. Where I'm doing like kettlebell complexes and stuff like that, right? Like my point being is this: that a lot of times you'd get a lot of benefit learning from somebody that you're like, I don't know about that, and then you do it, and you're like, dude, I can deadlift 600, but I use this 35-pound kettlebell for a couple of drills, and my obliques feel like they're gonna rip off the bone. My glute med is crying, and it's like, well, why is that?
Yeah.
What's going on here? So, I mean, your body is connected. And obviously,
Hmm.
there's certain things that, like, man, you're not that strong as you thought you were. What if you brought those weaklings up? What if you brought some of that training into your training and after you do it for a while, put it into your client's training because you'll better understand
Yep.
it, right? We got to be
Yeah.
more, again, I started with this curious. I mean, I'm 21 years in, I'm always studying shit. I'm always trying to keep, empty the teacup. If you've ever heard it's the analogy of the master. He has this reporter that comes up and is asking this wise teacher, should I say, meditation teacher, and you
Yeah.
know, and he's asking him questions, and every time the guy, I would say the teacher starts answering the question, the guy interrupts him with more questions, right? And he's pouring him tea, right? So his teacher's pouring tea to the interviewer,
Sure.
and keeps pouring, and the cup starts getting full, and it starts overflowing, right? And it, like the interviewer goes like, whoa, 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 like you're pouring over, like it's going all over, and he goes like, much like yourself, right? Like you have to empty the cup to be able to fill it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're just pouring, 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 pouring. And I think in the coaching space, people get very, very, connected to a way. And I've been there. So like I speak from experience, I've done it, right? Like, well, I've been that guy or this guy, right? And you evolve, and ideally you evolve faster and you stay curious and you ask more questions rather than like, this is fucking stupid. You know what I mean? Like I have a
Yeah.
client she's been with us for 17 years, right? Bonnie. And she started her fitness journey started with Zumba, right? And
Nice.
Zumba got her out off the couch, start dancing, started losing weight. After a while, it was like, well, she kind of went deeper down the rabbit hole. It's like, man, I got to start doing strength training because muscle, strength, bone density, these things are important. She came to Vigor. She's lost over 100 pounds. She's, in her 40s, absolute savage.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
my point being is at the beginning, I remember being like, oh, well, Zumba's not the best for fat loss and muscle building. It's like, what a stupid thing to say. Like,
Yeah.
it
Me
got her
too.
off the couch. It made it fun for her to start being active, right? And it led her to the next thing. Now, where are you at with that? Like, if you
Mm-hmm.
say, I know, your brain does what? Your I know blocks curiosity. It's done. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't have to search. I don't have to seek, right? Seek and you shall find.
Right.
So if you go, man, that looks a little dumb, but like, let me find out more about what they're doing. That's a very different approach. Let me listen to a podcast, go watch a course, watch some videos. Let me dive. Does he have an article? Do they have a book? And let me see, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is like that's what really gave me a lot of stuff because like I speak a lot, I travel, I'm always training with people, right? I'll find people that are like, hey man, why do you do that? How do you do this? Man, it's like such a fast learning process, right? And I think it's important to again be able to do that because it will continue to increase your toolbox and that problem solving, piece of what coaching is. You'll get better and better at that skill set, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. No, I love that. I think hey, let's jump into two more questions. Got a few kind of teed up here. Do you
Uh,
program metabolic conditioning in your large and or small group sessions, and how do those workouts fit into your overall program? We'll hit that one and then one more and then wrap us
okay.
up, man. This is huge.
Uh,
Thank you so much.
so I see a couple other ones here. I can probably answer some of them quickly, but
Go for
with
it.
that,
Yeah, if you
uh,
can rip through a few, go for it, man.
so our gym has large group training, which we call team training. It's by the way, you can go on YouTube, type these things in. I have like 40-minute videos on it if you want more details. Like
And
goes
they're
into
all really good too. I've
yeah,
watched a lot of
it's
them in the past. So
so just so because that will give you even more kind of like insight and context than I can answer here. But
yeah.
the simple model is like, team training is large group training, and it's mostly oriented around conditioning and think like GPP from a standpoint of like we literally categorize our data as either intervals or density,
Yeah.
right? So, but think about that. That's general fitness and conditioning. Small
Yeah.
group personal training, we have a model that where we have block one and it's timed. Same thing. I explain the whole thing on YouTube as well. But it's like strength and power. So it's a 14-minute block. There's warm-ups, then we got strength and power. Block two is muscle building. It's kind of like a Charles Staley EDT type of model. And then
Yep.
block three is either metabolic stress, which is pump, or conditioning, right? And then semi-private training is very custom. So the program you guys saw, that is a program, and you saw that there's conditioning at the end. So almost every semi-private program is conditioning. But here's the thing. If somebody comes to our gym and they can only afford one time a week semi-private, they still get access to other stuff. So me as the coach, I'd go like, hey, John, you're training with me on Monday. Go to the small group on Thursday, right? So you get another full body strength training workout. And then Tuesday and Saturday, see if you can get a team training conditioning session in, right? So it's like a choose your own adventure plug and play because it allows them to get the frequency of training. Again, my whole team training system for free on YouTube. You can look it up. Just go large group training program design. I think if you go small group training program design, Luka Hocevar, all those things pop up because it'll help you understand it better. Because you have, I was always thinking about like, how do I get my clients the best results possible if they can't, afford one-on-one personal training or semi-private personal training, which most people can't. And so
Yep.
we started doing those modalities. And so that's how we organize it. And I'd love to talk more about that. But I see Sommer Harrington said, look, at you differentiate program design from male versus female. Very interested in menstrual cycle and menopause program design. I realize this is niche. Yes. So we had some great people about that are Brianna Battle and
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up so I don't mess up. So I give you guys. She's awesome. Alyssa Olnick. So we actually did a seminar. Me and Joel Jameson did like a seminar with Alyssa Olnick, a workshop with her, and she talked about that in detail. That is, by the way, the menstrual cycle menopause program design is very, very. I think a lot of people have grabbed onto it to try to be the niche person and like really sell the shit out of it. Where there are things I think that are good to know, but it's also not like, people are like, oh my God, like you have to, if you're in that cycle, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's gone overboard. Too much for me to talk about and explain right now. But Alyssa Olnick is actually, I'm going to pop up her IG handle. Let's see, share to copy link. All right. So if you guys look down, and again, look, I share people that are friends of mine that are phenomenally good at what they do. So you want to look at that. She's awesome when it comes to that. As far as program design for women and men, honestly, a lot of it is similar. But here's the thing. You want to look at, it comes to the individual part of it, right? Like usually women are going to like, especially when we do, like we have a Strong Her program, which is a small group for women. Like usually the last block is always glute building and like, for example, core. But that's on demand, meaning like women are like, hey, I want a little bit more of this, I want a little bit more of that, right? Also, quite a lot of females will say things like, I'm giving you pure feedback in the real world. My friend Ben Bruno will tell you this too. They'll be like, I want to build my glutes, but I don't want my legs to grow. It's a real thing, right? So now you got to start thinking about like, I can push the sled and not get this deep range of motion and eccentric load on my quads, but I can still build strength in them. But guess what? I can do, for example, like hip thrusts. I can do RDLs, right? So I'm building my backside, but not building my front side and stuff, right? So I think things like that are important when it comes to individualization. But a lot of it's going to be very, very similar. A lot's going to be very, very similar. I think when people say that there's huge differences, I think they're trying to sell some shit, right? They're trying to be different. Mm-hmm. That's just my 2 cents, but it's like, let's just say I'm right. So let's leave it there.
It should never be fragilizing, right? I think that's my takeaway there. Like never treat fragile.
Absolutely hate that, by the way. Like I have a newborn, 8 weeks old. My girl had a really, really, really tough pregnancy, by the way. And pretty tough, I would say, the whole 9 months, right? Like most of the time. And man, like she trained when she could and she trained really hard. And I've trained probably about 100 pregnant women at this point in time. And very different stories, but more so because of their individual experience. I think out of the 100, we had about 4 or 5 where the doctor was like, hey, it's unsafe for them to train intensely. And we didn't. In most scenarios, the doctors encouraged it. And most of those women had the fastest recovery ever, and like we trained hard. But we didn't do certain things in certain periods, like stretching the abdominal wall at certain periods in time. Like I could do a pre-zone on this, but my point being is, that I wouldn't like this whole thing, like, oh my God, be afraid, be careful, yes, be careful. But like when people try to catastrophize stuff and are fear mongering, which has become a thing now,
very regular,
because they want to get likes and views and be different and then sell you their course, I think that's bullshit.
It is bullshit.
I'll finish the last one because I think this one can be a quickie. Sure. How often do you gamify conditioning? Well, let me tell you this. I don't know what you mean by gamifying conditioning, but like heart rate monitors. So I think the best piece of heart rate, I would say, software / hardware out there is trainwithmorpheus.com. Again, Joel Jameson, one of my best friends, best guy on the planet for HRV and conditioning. The guy's been a legend for 30 years in that. And, when you can see zones and you can tell people where to be, because the thing is gamifying conditioning, you got to be careful about it. Because if you gamify it, like to a degree, like I love competition. I love it. I think competition, especially with sports performance, is very smart because it drives performance, right? But, take that back to, CrossFit, where it's like if every day is a WOD and you're trying to beat the time and trying to beat the person, what's going to happen? 5, 6, 7 days a week, you're going to be, in red with your conditioning because your heart rate is going to be 90%. That's really, really not smart. You're going to run into a wall, you're going to have problems. So being strategic about, when you create competition, number one. Number two, gamifying is like, look, I'm a big fan of conditioning, and like you would never go into the gym and go like, you're not going to see your weights. I'm not going to tell you how much weight is on the bar, but you're going to lift it. You'd be like, well, this is dumb. Fuck, I don't know if I'm getting stronger. Like, I don't know if I'm getting more reps. I don't know if I'm progressing. But conditioning, people don't use heart rate monitors. So how do you know if you're getting better? How, like,
Don't.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? How are you testing? Like we do
Yeah.
Cooper tests, and sometimes, again, a lot of times off the feet if people are not, ready to be running that long. So we'll get average, basically, we'll get their threshold, anaerobic threshold. I mean, it's going to be estimated. We're going to get their distance and power, and average distance for that test. We're going to get that 60-second HRR, which is their heart rate recovery, right? I'm going to get a whole bunch of data. And now, and by the way, if there's more specific tests, like, my guys for NFL, they came in, they absolutely annihilated the conditioning test. They're like, what the fuck, but guess what? I knew what the tests were. We trained the test, right? We trained that system, energy system. Heart rate monitors, you know what's going on. I can retest. Hey, every month, look at that. Like you had more distance and your average heart rate is lower on that same test. And your heart rate recovery went from 47 beats per minute in 60 seconds. From 20 beats per minute to like 40 beats per minute. Progress, progress, progress. That's gamifying, right? Because I can show you your progress. So I would highly, highly, highly encourage everybody to, get something like that. Look, you can do whatever you want. You can do a Polar H10, but like trainwithmorpheus.com, I think, is the best software out there for that, and cheap and all that stuff. I tell all my clients, get it, because otherwise we're just kind of shooting in the dark,
Shooting in the dark. Yeah.
and I think that's not smart. You know what I mean? Like you're just putting cardio to the wayside. It's kind of like just a side piece. Cardio is very, very important. So hopefully that was helpful, guys. I don't know if you recognize that, like, I love this shit. I could talk about this for a year straight, not stop, and not need food.
Amen.
But hopefully that was helpful.
Well, absolutely was, man. And just like sincerely appreciate, you taking the extra time today. Like seriously, that means a ton. And I know the community always appreciates that kind of approach for sure. I mean, I guess from here, like what I want to make sure is like, what are the best next steps for coaches to take, to learn from you personally. I cannot recommend enough, like the business side of a training business. I think that's one of the things that like we didn't talk a ton about today, but you do better than anyone. So think that's incredible. But what else?
I mean, I've got so if you go to my site, which is called lukahocevar.com, just my name, first name, last name, all that good stuff. I have a course on small group. It's called Small Group Mastery. There's a level 1 and level 2. They're different, like also has a lot of business stuff in there as well. And then I have an Athlete for Life workshop, which is a 2.5-hour workshop on whiteboards, breaking down my whole Athlete for Life program design system. There's a conditioning workshop. There's a bunch of different stuff, but I'm going to put in the chat. I do something called Super Coach Mentorship. It's the most affordable, by the way. Guys, I have a bunch of different businesses. One's called Built to Last Gym.com. That's where we coach gym owners. You have to be a gym owner. You got to have at least 30 clients, yada, yada, right? Like that's very specific to like helping you grow your gym. But one of the things I found in the space was not a lot of practical. And when I say not a lot, I mean like very, very, very little practical education on how to build your coaching career, meaning improve your skill set, be better at program design, be better at coaching, be better at the business of coaching. Like how to build an email list, how to generate leads, how to get clients without spending a ton of ad money, knowing how to do ads. And so once I realized that, like this past year, I launched something called Super Coach Mentorship. As a heads up, the other problem I found, like I'm from Slovenia. So when I go home, there's a lot of people that follow me there and in Europe. And you were like, hey man, like we love your shit. Like, thank you, keep doing the YouTube stuff for free. But like, we can't afford these higher ticket mentorships. And again, for a business mentorship, it's high ticket. If you got a gym, it's a different story. So I wanted to create something that's very affordable. So like this is $77 a month. We do 2 to 3 live workshops like this. Like once a month, I have a studio of 3 cameras that comes in. Like for example, I shot my small group personal training session live, 3 cameras. You're watching me coach real clients live, breaking down what we're doing, how we're doing it, the whole shebang, right? And so you get program design stuff. You get, like, for example, we had a guy that came in, it's a friend of mine, Pat Hennigan, teach about AI so that you can like essentially replace employees that do all the stuff for you. We got Andrew Coates coming up teaching social media. I did a social media content flywheel. There's a program design mentorship course in there. And every month we have new stuff. I got Joel Jameson coming on doing conditioning workshops. I mean, you name it, it's crazy. And by the way, it's in circles. So every day you can ask me questions. Like we have AMA calls, ask me anything calls like this. I'll do an hour and a half to 2 hours. You ask me whatever you want. right? It's the most value driven thing that exists. All the workshops that are recorded is kind of like Netflix. It's just there. You can access them. There's tens and tens of, like, we have Vigor Ground Summit. I put the whole summit, all the videos in there. It's honestly, it's absurd how much stuff is in there. And I hate being a ShamWow guy, but like, I will not tell the truth of what I believe is incredible, right?
I'll be
So,
your ShamWow guy, dude. It's awesome.
you know what I
Like
mean? Buy
his
one, buy
content's
one
great.
now,
You
get
should
free.
do
But like,
it.
the thing is, I built it. Like, I thought about this, man. When I was coming up, if I had this, oh fuck, it's insane.
Yeah.
You know, it's insane. Like, there's people in there that, like, after month one, were like, dude, like, I feel like I owe you money. Like, I went and did this and got like 6 clients. Like, it's paid for 8 years of this mentorship in month one. You know, so, but the big thing is the practicality of it. I don't teach anything that's like, hey, let me tell you this theory about it. It's like, yo, I do this in the real world. I have a gym in Slovenia. I have a gym here that I've had for 17 years, there for 19 years. Like, we coach so many people in real time. I only teach the shit that I do and it works, and like real world practical stuff, and not like things that it would be nice and good in theory, and none of that. Right. And I think the industry needs that.
It absolutely does. There's a lot of bad business coaches that prey on the industry, in my opinion, and none of them have the experience that Luka has. So I think that that's a really important thing, right? So for so many of us, like once you reach critical mass on the knowledge and the skills, like it really is the business stuff, man, and getting like your unique voice out there to the people, and Luka can help you do that, man. I seriously, I hope you guys take him up on a lot of this stuff, because it is just knowing Luka, what limited amount I know, yeah, but like it's you are a coach first, value forward guy, and there's not too many of those. So it's
Thank you, brother.
integral to learn from someone like this, guys, for sure.
And yeah, guys, I dropped the link. So, Paul, it's right above what you commented on. I don't know if everybody sees it, but I dropped the link in there. After the call, if anybody's like, man, I don't see the link. That's weird. Host and panelists. I think Cooper,
I
I'm not
see it in
sure.
there.
You
I
see
see it
it?
in there in the general
Yeah, I
chat. Yeah,
think
I
it's
do.
only going to
Yeah.
host and panelists. So maybe Cooper can
Oh
reshare it
yeah,
and
sure.
I'll
Let
see
me.
it.
Yeah,
Um, I
I
think to
see what
me
you're
it's
saying.
saying to host and panel.
Yeah, I'll
Let's see.
figure it out. Um,
There we go.
you got it.
Cool.
Okay,
All
cool.
right, so it should be in there now, guys. You should have access to it. And if afterwards anybody kind of doesn't have the link or anything like that, man, just DM me like on IG. I'm very like responsive. If you got any questions and stuff. I mean, if you ask me a question every day, I'll be like join Super Coach. But if you got a question for me, I always answer. I try to be a value first person. That's been a thing, being a go-giver for the last 21 years has really, really helped me. And again, like things like this, I hope I delivered a lot of value, and that you
You
guys
did,
go
man.
from
Yeah,
here and
you
have
did.
stuff that you can implement. That's what means the world to me. And I appreciate you guys being on the call. Like, look, I really do appreciate and respect and honor when people take their time to get better. And I'm always going to shine a light on it. So for everybody that's here on the call, kudos to you. Because what it tells me is that, like, man, like, you're curious, like you want to get better at your craft. And like this, you are the type of people that we need to drive this industry forward, man. Like, and I'm absolutely so purposeful about this shit to make sure that we get more, like we get an army of people, the right people, to not have somebody that's an edutainer, and like never coach people, doesn't really know, and, has a huge following telling people what to do. And it's like dumb shit. I want more of the people that are doing this in the real world to become lighthouses and like educate and teach, and transform folks from the inside out. That's my mission, man. So thank you for being here, guys.
Love it. Hey, thank you so much, and we'll end on that note. Luka, thanks for being here, man. That was incredibly valuable for everyone. So
My pleasure.
appreciate the guest being here too, man. Take care, y'all.
Peace out.